Welcome to episode 12 of Pins and Needles, my nitty crafty sewing blog. Today is Saturday the 15th of October and this is my second attempt at recording this podcast. I got halfway through and then my laptop decided to update itself and I lost the whole thing. So hopefully I will be much slicker this time because obviously I've had the practice. My name is Zoe. You can find me on Ravelry as BFG and on Instagram as Pins and Needles UK. And also, breaking news, I've finally got round to starting a Ravelry group for the podcast. Very lovely viewer, Benita, hi Benita, sent me a message on Ravelry saying, did I have a podcast group? And if not, why not? And the answer was, I was really worried nobody would join. Anyway, Benita kindly promised that if I started a group, she would join, so I did. So you can search for that in the Ravelry groups tab. And two other people have joined as well that I messaged when I opened the group, so that's quite exciting. I've had loads of new subscribers since last episode, so welcome to any new viewers and welcome back to any of the old crowd. I'm over 600 subscribers now, so that's fantastic. And I promised last time that if I hit 500, I would do a giveaway, and we totally smashed it. So, if you are interested, I have 4 balls of Erica Knight Gossypium Cotton DK yarn. I got these as a freebie on the Great London Yarn Crawl that I went on last month. So I've got 2 pink, they're a very pale pink, 1 pale grey and 1 sort of pale mustardy colour. They're 50-gram balls. What does it say on the label? 100% cotton, 100 metres, 3.75 to 4 millimetre needles, or US 5 to 6. So these are very lovely. If you're interested in putting your name down for the giveaway, head over to the Ravelry group, search for Pins and Needles podcast, and just post in one of the threads there. There's a meet and greet thread to just say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself. And there's a sewing whips and a knitting whips and a general chatter. So head over there. Help me feel like somebody wants to be in my group. It's a bit like when you have a party and you're really worried nobody comes, or only 3 people will come, and then it's going to be really awkward. So help me out with my social anxiety issues. Go and join the group and you could win some of these. I'll do random number generator and let you know who the winner is next time. When I was digging out that yarn, I also came across this voucher. It's a 10% off voucher for Loop in London, but you have to actually go into the shop to use it. You can't use it online or anything like that. I'm not going to get there for months. So if you live in London or you're going to be visiting the Loop shop soon, fire me a message either on Instagram or on Ravelry and let me know you'd like this, and I will post it to you because it's a shame to waste 10% off. Who doesn't want cheap yarn? So it will just literally be the first message I get, you will get this voucher. So just let me know and have some free yarn. Well, not free, cheap. Cheap yarn. Right. My last couple of weeks have been strange and unusual. My husband Dave is currently in Las Vegas. He went out last year to become qualified in a new fitness training system that we've been using since at work at the gym. And he's headed back out this year to go and be the MC at the annual conference that they're running. So he's abandoning me. He left on Monday afternoon and it's now Saturday afternoon. So, I mean, I'm always very busy, but I've been particularly busy. I've had extra shifts and I haven't been sleeping because I know it's pathetic, but I don't sleep without Dave. So I'm really tired. I've been getting about 3 hours a night. But my mum very kindly came down for a few days and helped me out because a lot of my... So I've been leaving the house at sort of 5:45 in the morning or working till 9 o'clock at night. So she's been very kindly helping me out, running the kids, doing a bit of hoovering and putting the dinner on and things. So that's been great. And the kids have had inevitably they've had an extra load of activities. There's been swimming lessons and friends' parties and open evenings for secondary schools. And then poor old Max, my youngest son, picked up a nasty bug and threw up everywhere. So it's been a trying time. And I rang Dave, well, I Skyped him, because I think you're 7 hours or 8 hours behind us in Las Vegas. So when I got up at 5:30 in the morning, I was like that. And I gave him a ring. And he had a room full of friends in his hotel and was drinking beer and generally whooping it up in Vegas. And I was off to open up his gym. So I thought, right, fine. So I went to work, got everything opened up and the till going. And then I decided to treat myself and I ordered some fabric and a couple of patterns and got my crafty little revenge on being left to man everything this end. Anyway, so that's been my life over the past week. It's been a bit crazy, but it's the weekend now. We haven't got to go anywhere or do anything. So I'm going to podcast, I'm going to walk Jim the dog, bless him, he's fast asleep by my feet. And then, tomorrow, I haven't been to knit night for weeks, if not months. It's just not worked out. So I've decided to have afternoon tea at my house tomorrow, and anybody that's part of my knit night, I would love them to come over. So I'm going to make cake and talk to my friends. So that will be nice. So I have managed some crafting. Not much in the last few days, I must admit, but before Dave went away, I got a few things done. And first up is my Linden sweatshirt. I would like you to note the sleeves and how beautifully they fit. I was worried after the last disaster I'd have some sort of sleeve curse, but these are totally different sleeves, so I got away with it. Okay, so this is the Grainline Studios Linden sweatshirt. I made the top version, version A, with the long sleeves. I used the French terry that I bought from the Village Haberdashery, and the ribbing I bought from Ray Stitch in London. Again, I bought both of these on the yarn crawl last month. Oh, I forgot to mention, details of everything and timestamps of sections are in the drop-down box below, so check in there for details and timings. So this is quite a simple pattern. There's no waist shaping. It's a front, back, 2 sleeves and ribbing. So it's not complicated. But the seam allowance on this pattern is only 3/8 of an inch. So there's no margin for error in the sizing. And I didn't have a huge amount of fabric and it was quite expensive. And again, I didn't have any suitable fabric for making a toile. I didn't get to have a practice run. So I decided to err on the side of caution and I made a size 14 for the top and then I graded it out to a size 18 for the hips, which according to the pattern was what I actually needed. So I cut all the pieces out, tacked them together. I didn't attach the ribbing, I just the main pieces, and tried it on. It was perfect round the top, but way too big round the bottom. It really was a trapeze shape like this. So I unpicked it and cut it back down to a 14 on the hips as well, which was a perfect fit. I wanted to add some length to it. Again, I'm over 6 foot, so I usually need to add length. But I found it quite difficult to judge how much for the sleeves because sort of until I'd sewn it together, I couldn't really tell where to measure for the shoulder because there isn't a shoulder seam, obviously, because it's a raglan. Does that make sense? You know what I mean. Anyway, so again, I thought, well, put the extra length in and it's easier to take it out if I don't need it. So 3 inches to each sleeve, 3 inches to the body. And then obviously when you split and separate for the body, because it's straight-sided, it's no problem, you just draw the lines in. The sleeves was a little bit trickier. I don't think I brought the pattern piece with me to show you. Oh, yes I did. Aha! Oh no, this is the body piece. But yeah, I just cut and spread, and I put some baking parchment in. And so for the sleeves, I just graded out the size, so that the lines continued nice and neatly. And it turned out I didn't need any extra length anywhere. I put it on and the sleeves were right down to my fingers, and the jumper was quite a lot longer than I wanted. So if you're not 6'1", bear that in mind when you make this pattern. There is a lot of length in it that you may not want. Anyway, so I altered all of that back again. But I'm glad I did it that way, because I didn't spoil the pieces of fabric that I'd cut out. It's no problem to make them shorter or smaller. So I'm going to try and stand up and show you, but the angles aren't fantastic. So I will give you an extreme close-up to see if you can see the detail in the fabric. So is that just going to blow out horribly? I'm not sure. But it's a nice grey French terry, and it's got lots of little multicoloured dots on it. I don't know if you can see. There's red, green, yellow and blue. And obviously I picked out the yellow for the ribbing. So there's my side view. And there's my back view. Not my best side. So I'm very pleased with it. The only issue I had when I was attaching the ribbing, it was fine for the neckline because it's quite a big space, and I was using my overlocker. But when I was doing the cuffs, it's such a small circumference, and on a sewing machine you can pull out the base, so you just have a very short stumpy section that you can poke the sleeve into. My overlocker doesn't have that, so it was a real fidget. You could only sew sort of ½ an inch at a time before you had to pull a pin out and shuffle all the fabric around. So I've ended up with, can you see these little white bits of stitching here? And I think it's because either the tension was wrong on my overlocker, or I just didn't position it quite correctly. There's the inside view. And you can see I haven't quite finished all the bits. I finished this late last night, so I haven't had a chance to give it a final press or trim the ends. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's almost a design element, I'd say. But this morning, while I was waiting for my computer to endlessly update, I had to go on the neckline of solving it. I turned it the wrong side out, and then using matching grey thread, I stitched another line of stitching. Oh, it was yellow thread I used. Just so the overlocking thread ends there, and I stitched just a little bit underneath it. And as you can see, you can't see the white stitching there. I don't particularly need stretch in the stitch because it's such a large open neck and the sleeves are so nice and roomy. So I'll do that to the cuffs and to the hemband as well. But yes, even on me, that's how long the cuffs are. So there's my actual wrist. But it's nice. It's super cozy. I really enjoyed making it. And because I knit as well, I have a comfort knitting patterns. If you just want something nice to knit, something cozy, you don't have to think about, you can just enjoy the process. It's vanilla socks for me. And I think the Linden sweatshirt will be my vanilla socks for sewing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this, particularly after last time's disaster with my shift dress. So I'm pleased with how this came out. I'll fix the bits of stitching, trim the ends, give it a final press, and I'm sure I'll use it a lot. Speaking of my disastrous shift dress, I wanted to say an absolutely enormous thank you. I had so many comments. A lot of them were just joining in with me laughing at the absolute disaster that it was. But lots of you also spent the time to give me some really helpful tips and tricks, either ways to fix it or ways to, if I was going to start again, ways to get a better fit. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it. I'm not quite ready to go back to the dress yet. It's on a hanger in my crafting room, so I walk past it regularly and I'm still staring at it like that. So when I've calmed down, I will get back to it, and I'm hoping I can just adjust what I've got. I'm not sure if I've got enough fabric to cut it back out. So yes, thank you very much to everybody who commented. I really appreciated it. It was super kind of you. Sorry, I've lost my show notes. I'm a bit exhausted. Oh, as I said, I was doing some consolation shopping online while Dave was away. And I've decided I need new pyjamas. I've got a very ratty pair and the elastics showing through the waistband and t-shirts all pulled out of shape. So I ordered myself some fabric from eBay, which hasn't arrived yet, but I'll show you that next time. It's a nice cream background with little lilac flowers on it. I think I put a picture on my Instagram feed, so you can go and have a look. And I've already got a pattern. This is Butterick B5537. As you can see, it's a unisex dressing gown pyjama set. And I've used this pattern to make one of the dressing gowns. I don't think it was my dressing gown. It might have been my son's dressing gown. But I'm just going to make some classic cotton pyjamas. They do have a fly front, but presumably you cannot bother with that if you don't need front access, shall we say. So yes, Butterick B5537, nice classic pair of pyjamas. And the fabric I ordered online was Winceyette, brushed cotton. But when my mum came down to help me with the children, she bought me this beauty. This really isn't going to show up very well. There you are. Now this is one of my grandmother's old sheets. As I said, unfortunately, she's had to move into a nursing home, so my mum and my aunt are in the process of sorting out all her bits and pieces. And mum came across this nice patterned flat sheet and brought it down for me. So I actually love the pattern on it. It's a really nice sort of vintage style large flower print, turquoises and creams and a little bit of green. It's been well used, so it's lovely and soft, and it's a double sheet, so there's loads of fabric in here. Some parts of it are worn a little bit thin, but it really doesn't matter for pyjamas, and I think I'll have enough fabric that I can play with pattern placement to avoid some of the really thin parts. So this will be my wearable toile. I can practice making pyjamas on this, and then when my nice brushed cotton floral fabric comes in, you know, I won't be in any danger of wasting that. So that's my next project. Really ought to be the shift dress, oughtn't it, really? But I want new pyjamas. I'll see. Maybe I could do both. I've only ever had one sewing pattern going at a time because sewing is a bit new. I have lots of different knitting projects, but only one sewing project at a time. But I'll have to see. I'll have to see. Anyway, practice pyjamas. On to needles, my knitting bit. I forgot to say that pins was my sewing bit, but you know that. Anyway, on to needles, my knitting bit. I have a finished object and I love it. Right, this is my Fairy Snowcap by Romi Hill. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and I absolutely love it. Look at that. Beautiful lace motif up here, my Toft alpaca pom-pom, and this gorgeous twisted rib all the way down. So yes, I knitted this in Toft alpaca Aran in the colourway Fudge. I used 4 and 5 millimetre needles. I was a bit concerned that I was going to run out of yarn. Once you let me hold it up. Once you finish the lacy bits, you're supposed to have an extra 18 rows to the bottom. And I was very worried I was going to run out of yarn because there's an unusual bind off on this that I thought was going to take a lot of yarn. So I actually did 1 or 2 rows fewer than the pattern called for, and it worked out fine in the end. Although it's an Aran weight yarn, it's very chubby, it's very round, so I totally got away with that. And I absolutely love it. I've worn it loads since. I've worn it to work and everyone's been playing with the pom-pom because it's so soft you can hardly feel it. And the twisted rib makes it a really snug fit. And I'm tickle pink with that. It's a very well written pattern, lots of photographs, very detailed instructions. She gave lots of, this is knitted top down, which is one of the reasons I was tempted by the pattern, and she gave lots of options for different cast-ons for the top, so you get a complete seal and you don't get a sort of a cat's bum at the top. But given that you're going to put a pom-pom on it, I'm not sure it matters, so I did my normal cast-on and it was fine. And then the bind off, can you see? You get a rather sort of perfect bind off edge. And this was a grafted bind off. Now it's a paid for pattern, so I can't give the details away. But basically, when you're ready to, there's 2 setup rows, and then you use an embroidery needle and graft the final row. So it's not difficult. There's just lots of steps, as with any grafting process. So that took me a while, and my tension was a bit wonky when I started. You can see here a bit of a random lump, but by the time I got round the other side, it was all looking quite tidy. Would I bother with it again? I don't know. But you know, it looks nice. I'm pleased with it, and it is nice and stretchy. So yeah, Fairy Snowcat by Romi Hill. I absolutely love this pattern, and I really love the pom-pom. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love it. Next up, I have managed to do some work on my Augury shawl. I was having a bit of a knit along with Kipper Dog, my friend from LSG. Hi, Kipper Dog. And Augury is a, sorry, I'm just wrestling with the whip here so I can show you. It's a shawl designed by Lisa Mutch, a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and it's a crescent shaped shawl that uses short rows. So I've got my little owly stitch marker to show you where I was the last time. And the yarn is Noro Silk Garden Sock in colourway 241S, and I'm knitting this on 4.5mm needles. So it's a bit difficult to show you. I need to move it onto a larger needle, but I'm using that cable for my cardigan. So we're a bit scrunched up, but anyway, can you see? You have these short row wedges of eyelets, and they get further and further into the shawl as you go. So it's a super easy pattern. I really enjoy the colours of the yarn. I think it'll go, I love purple, and I think it will be quite handy. It'll go with all sorts of things. And it's a nice brainless knit when you're sort of watching television and things like that. So I've done, you know, a good chunk more, and then I put it down to try and get a move on with my cardigan that I'll show you next. But I'm really enjoying this. I'm not sure I'm actually doing a knit along with it anymore because Kipper Dog finished hers ages ago. It's just me. I'm alonging with myself. But yes, lovely pattern, really enjoying that, and I think the finished object will be really handy. I might pick that up again a bit more later and get cracking on that. The other thing I've been working on, I showed them a while ago now in my Eldenwood Crafts bug bag. Absolutely love this. I'm knitting a fingering weight blanket. Now most people are doing scrappy mitered square blankets, but Kate Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast has a lovely pattern called the Blanket of the Year. Check her profile and her projects on Ravelry. And you knit mitered squares and then you do a cream border. So I've shown you these before, but I've finally got a chance to put the border on it. Nothing fancy, just rows of garter stitch, and then each one will have these rows on, and then I'll seam them all together at some distant point in the future, because this is going to be quite a long-term project. So yeah, there's that. I'm quite pleased with how that came out. I wanted to try and get one more square done of the other yarns. This is Mothy and the Squid yarn in the middle, and the cream is undyed sock sparkle yarn from Owl About Yarn. And I've also got, oh, I did one edge. There we are, look. These other minis are from Jo Knit Sew, and slightly different colours, but again, just putting a cream edge on, and I think it will bind them all together. So yes, that's the other project I've been working on, and the yarn that Jenny gave me is lovely. Look at that. Can you see this? Oh, whoop. Sorry, I think I just blew the colouring out on the on the computer. But yes, there's the sparkly yarn, and it's really lovely to work with. I've got 2 skeins. I don't think I'll need both, but you can never have too much neutral sparkly sock yarn. Speaking of Jenny, she very kindly, I say very kindly, I blatantly asked for a project back. I saw some of the fabrics that she'd bought, and there were some I just couldn't resist, so I said, please, pretty please, please, can you make me a bag? Look at that. This is my superhero project bag, and this Wonder Woman symbol I'm chuffed as nuts with, because I've got some Wonder Woman pants that I bought from Asda's. So I don't know how many of you knitters out there match your underwear to your project bags, but this knitter does. So I'm super pleased with that. Nice big handle, fabulous zip. There's something very satisfying about the sound of a zip. Do you find that? Is that just me? And then a dark inside. But yes, so really pleased with that. Then last, but by no means least, is my Epistrophy cardigan. I'm sure you're as bored of seeing this cardigan as I am of knitting it, but really I'm almost done. It's from Kate Davies Designs, from her book Yokes, and I'm knitting it in Sirdar Balmoral DK. That yarn is discontinued, so you can't have any. But the last time I showed you, I had finished all the colour work, and the next thing to do was to steek it. I did it! Look at this! Look at that! I actually cut my knitting. Last episode, I mentioned to you that Kate Davies has a series of steeking tutorials on her website. I'll put links down below, and those are the tutorials that I used to do this. She has a couple of different options that you can choose, and I went with the crochet steek. Now, first off, you need to know that I don't crochet. I can't work out how you tension yarn when you're only holding it in one hand with one stick. I just end up going like this, and it's an absolute bleeding mess. So I wasn't looking forward to the crochet bit, I'm not going to lie. So I started off with a similar size crochet hook to the cardigan. I think I had a 3.5mm crochet hook, and I tried to use the blue yarn to do the crochet reinforcement for the steek, and it was too big. The hook was too big, the yarn was too fat, and it was distorting the fabric. So I found a 2.5mm crochet hook and some plain navy sock yarn, and I crocheted a steek. So and it's hard to explain really, you have to go and have a look at the tutorials, but basically you find your middle steek stitch and you crochet the leg on one side of that steek stitch with the leg of its neighbour, and then on the other side you crochet the other leg of the steek stitch with its neighbour going the other way. So the V's are being forced away from each other like this, which reveals the bars down the middle, and it's those bars that you cut up once you've reinforced the steek. So I've done the button band on one side, but I left the other side unbutton banded, if that's a word, so I can show you. So there it is from the front. You can just see the navy yarn there, and if I show you the back, this line here is the crocheted steek reinforcement. And you can see, because you're cutting down the bars down the middle and wrapping it in crochet, there's no loose edges, there's nothing that's going to unravel, and it all works rather beautifully. Now, with the yoke section, it's very obvious where the steek stitches are, because you're going blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. For the main body of the sweater, it was all of the steek bridge was in blue yarn, and I was worried that I was going to get off by a column of stitches. I watched the Knitting Expat podcast, I'll put a link down below, and she recently steeked a baby cardigan and did a little video tutorial on how she did it. And she had that same issue, a concern about picking the right line of stitches. So the first thing she did before she started crocheting was ran some contrast yarn up the middle of the centre steek stitch so that she could follow it exactly. So I did the same thing. I used the cream yarn and I just went whoop all the way down the middle, and then you know exactly which stitch you're steeking. That's quite hard to say. Anyway, so I went for it. I did put a couple of close-up photos of the process on my Instagram feed, so do go and have a look. And then, as I said, on this side, I've actually got around to picking up the button band. So it's a beaded rib, and as you can see, you don't see any of the white steek bridge stitches. I haven't woven in my ends yet. And if I show you the inside, here is the steek stitches. So you can see it quite clearly here because you've got the white stripes, but it continues all the way down. Now, according to the pattern, she wants you to, having done this bit of the process and got the button band on, you're supposed to trim this back and hand stitch ribbon down the inside. And I don't think you need to bother. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I haven't blocked this, and it lies beautifully flat and everything's tidy and everything's enclosed. So I don't think I'm going to bother with the ribbon. I did buy some, but I'm sure I'll use it for something else. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with how that worked out. And it's lovely and tidy on the front. As I said, this is unblocked, so, it's going to come up beautifully, I think. So I've got one more button band on the other side, and then it's blocking it and sewing on the buttons. Now I am having a button dilemma, and I could do with your advice. When I went to Yarningham in summer, I went to the stand run by the Textile Garden, which is a brilliant online shop. I'll put the details in the down bar. Amazing selection of buttons, absolutely wonderful. I really recommend them. And I bought these buttons. Now these are coconut buttons with, are you going to be able to see? Tiny blue knit stitches on them. The trouble with those buttons is they are way too small for what the pattern suggests, and I don't know if they'd be much good at actually keeping the cardigan closed. So if I want to use those, I can, but I won't do button holes. I'll just sew the buttons on and put poppers on it, and no one will ever know. And then I was dithering, and so I went to Hobbycraft, our big national chain crafting store, and I bought these ones. These are the correct size. I quite like them, but I don't know which ones to use. The disadvantage of those ones is they didn't have enough. I needed 10 to 12 and they only had 9. So what do you think? Coconut ones from Textile Gardens or big plastic ones from Hobbycraft? I'm sure I can get some more. I'm sure they'll have them back in stock, but I don't know. I can't decide. It'll take me a while to finish it off, but let me know what you think. I quite like the fact that the Hobbycraft ones have got a lighter patch in the middle. I think that will sort of pick up the cream in the colourwork yoke. So I don't know. See what you think and let me know. But yes, that's my Epistrophy cardigan, and it's very nearly finished, which is fabulous. Right, well actually that's all I've got for you today. This is another slightly shorter podcast. I'm sorry about that, but I'm really, really tired. And I haven't managed to get very much done. So yes, if you'd like to be entered into the competition, head over to Ravelry, look for the Pins and Needles podcast group and post in a thread. If you would like that 10% voucher from Loop in London, chuck me a message on Instagram or on Ravelry, and first come, first served, I'll get that posted off. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you would like to keep up to date. And yeah, follow me on Instagram. I try and post every day if you're interested in keeping up on a more regular basis. So thanks for spending the time with me. Happy knitting, happy sewing, happy crafting, whatever it is that you do. And I will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.